What's up, everyone? Welcome to another webinar with myself and Courtney Atkinson today. And I get fired up about this topic. I'm sure we could go on for hours and hours, but it's all about the biggest mistakes agents make in their first 3 years. Now, the reason I wanted to confine this to the first 3 years is because I've been sitting down and meeting, or agents will DM me asking, how do I do more business when they've gotten into the business when times were really good, 2020, 21, and 22, and now they're struggling, right? Things have changed a little bit. The market is a lot more difficult, I would say, difficult with quotations. It's more just different. And I think once we get behind the curtains of the top mistakes that these agents make, maybe they'll not only be able to identify that within themselves, but maybe if you are a newer agent in your first year, you can avoid these mistakes. And I think it's going to be a great topic to kind of start with for the next hour here, Court.
Fantastic. I think you're right, Ryan, that, agents get into the business, right, with tons of enthusiasm, tons of excitement, and think, you know what, if I could just carry this, I'm going to be all right. And I think what misses, or what most people miss, is a clear strategy to get through not only those first 3 years, but to set themselves up for an insane trajectory like the one that you've had. And I like the idea of what we're going through in today's session by helping folks make a plan for that period of time. Because realistically, by the time you hit month 37 in our business, if you've conducted yourself appropriately during those first 36 months, you really should be doing the bulk of your business from repeat and referral, right? And that's really what we want to talk about today, as to how to predictably get yourself to that point during that critical 3-month period where you know that you're going to be winning past that, and not one of the unfortunate statistics that finds themselves out of business by that time.
And the golden egg, like the ideal destination, is to get to the majority of your business being repeat and referral. And that, in my opinion, some agents kind of fall into it after being in the business for 8 or 9 or 10 years, just from doing a decent number of transactions. But what we can see when we unpack that, we can kind of shorten that up to the 3-year window, to where, yeah, real estate's going to be very time consuming. It needs to be structured. You need to treat it like a real job for the first 3 years. But after that 3-year duration, if you've done things properly and if you've avoided these mistakes, your income is going to be way more predictable. And in my opinion, you can scale a lot more if you set things up correctly.
Yeah, 100%, Ryan. I think a lot of it comes down to this. In my view, a lot of people get into real estate with the simple misconception that being a realtor means showing houses and writing offers. The thing I think is lost on a lot of people is that this is an entrepreneur's business. If you're going to win at a high level, you have to look at this like a business. It's not as simple as waiting for your friends to call you, going out and seeing some houses, and then writing some paper to get paid. We have to be strategic in the way that we look at this and construct a predictable way for us to generate more and more business, and to do more and more with the same or less time as we've done previously. And that's really the intent here, is to talk about that 3-year period and how you can incrementally do things that are going to build upon what you've already done and get you to this point where you can have that predictable source of revenue and predictable business, so that you can continue to grow, or at very least, maybe you're really happy with where you're at by the end of your 3rd year and you just want to stay there doing your 30, 40, 50 deals a year, whatever that number is, right?
So true. And there is this, theory in compensation models, to where, people will plateau once they get a comfortable income. And I don't hate that concept, especially depending on, agents' lives and how they want real estate to fit in there. But I think what's exciting about real estate too, and if you do this properly, is that you can have the same level of income but scale back your time,
Mhm.
right? Now you just bought back your time. To me, that's a very, very, I would say, important and powerful way to leverage, not just to do more deals, because naturally people think, oh, you want to, make more money, do more deals. And I'm like, well, we could make the same amount of money with half the amount of time. Now you have freedom, right? And I think that's one of the most powerful things about this industry, at least that I've been privy to, where maybe I didn't realize that in the first few years. But
Yeah.
as soon as I started proactively thinking about, well, I don't want to be in the trenches just working PPC leads and try to do 50 deals, for having relationships start at zero, working them all the way to closing. There has to be a better way.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I had to go through that stuff in the first few years. I had to call more in the first 3 years of my business than I do now, because my sphere didn't trust me. My family members even had a tough time using me. They're like, you're kind of new. Like, you just know golf, you don't know real estate. Like, your sphere and your social presence around your community has this perception of you, and you slowly need to change that over time to get that repeat and referral business. So, what
Yeah.
would you say, Court? Say an agent did get their license in kind of that COVID time when things were pretty wild, 2020, 2021, and now they're struggling. They've plateaued. Their business is not near as good as what it was. What would you guess would be a one or two mistakes that that agent did make, or maybe that should have had some foresight at least a few years ago to mitigate that risk?
Yeah, I think the thing that everyone needs to realize about this industry, Ryan, is that we need to look at it from a career standpoint and stop looking at it in these like 12-month segments. Okay. Here's the thing, friends. The economy is going to change. You're going to change. Your life circumstances are going to change. Your motivation, your inspiration, all these things, they're fluid. Okay. And so, first of all, I just want you to forgive yourself for maybe having the best year of your life followed by the worst year of your life. That doesn't mean you're a bad realtor. It just means that your average is a little bit lower than it was the year before. And you can fix that with next year or the year after. Okay. So maintain that 10-year view. Like I didn't get into real estate at age 34 with the goal of quitting real estate in 3 years' time. My goal was to plan for something massive in 10 years and then just see what happened after that, because 10 years is about the longest that you can reasonably plan for. And I'm happy to report that I've been successful during that time. I've achieved most of those goals that I've set out for myself in those time as well. And anybody can. So I think first of all, it's just perspective. Like just be mindful of the fact that, hey, listen, things were nuts during COVID. Like that 21, 22 period, we had about a 12-month stretch there, right? Where it was just insane. Like everybody was kind of like coming out of their shell. They had all this money the government was giving them and going and buying real estate with it. Like, why not? And then that just kind of cooled off a little bit. And so if a person got their license then and grabbed a whole bunch of business and you were rushing around trying to, deal with people that were basically throwing money away, and now you're finding yourself maybe not so busy. Hey, don't get too worried about that, but have a plan. Okay. That's the second piece. Have a plan. And we'll talk about that.
Love that. Sounds like you got to give yourself some grace too. And I think that that can be a bad connotation about goal setting is that, everyone wants to do more and more and more deals every single year. And that's just never going to happen. Right. Now I do think goal setting has to be more than just volume or just transactions. And it has to be reasonable to the point to where we want to be building a business year over year. We don't want to just be doing transactions. And there's a huge difference there. Very
Mhm.
big difference in those two concepts. And coming from it from a business standpoint, it'd just be like any other business owner. Like it'd be unrealistic to think that every year is going to be a grand slam, right? It'd
Mm.
be unrealistic for us to assume that interest rates are always going to be 2%. It's just not realistic. But for some reason, we tie our business and our wants and our goals to those specific parts in time when everything around us is fluid. The market's fluid, interest rates are fluid. There's
Mm.
things that influence the real estate market way outside of our control. So it's like giving yourself grace if you're not where you're at, being like, hey, you showed up today, so that's a first step. And now what do we do about it and make sure that we don't have to come back to this place ever again, hopefully.
Yeah. One of the favorite questions that I have, and it's almost like a frustration simultaneously, Ryan, when I do goal setting with people. I ask folks, so tell me, what's getting you excited? Like, what are you working towards? How will you know that you've been successful? And a lot of people will pick a number, transactions, and that sort of thing. And the question that I like to ask relates more to what kind of life are you trying to build? Like, how much do you want to work? How do you want to travel? What does your travel look like? What kind of vehicles do you want to live in? What kind of house do you want to live in? Like, do you plan on retiring? Or are you like me and you plan on working till the day that you fall over because you love it so much? And it's not so hard that you can't do that. Like, you have to have perfect clarity on the life that you're trying to build before those goals that you're working towards will mean anything whatsoever. And so,
Mhm.
for those of you that are here right now, I would just ask you to ask yourself that question. What kind of life are you trying to build? How do you quantify a good life? Sure, income makes up a part of that, but so does your spirituality, so does your physical health, so do your relationships, and so many more things. Look at it holistically and ask yourself, what role does my career as a real estate agent play in creating this life? And what do I need to control as part of that to move me down that road? And you can start creating some deadlines and some objectives and goals in terms of those timelines so that you can then say, okay, you know what, this year, if I did X number of transactions at this price point, that would move me in the correct direction at the pace that I feel is appropriate for the life that I want to live over the next 12 to 36 months. And when you look at it that way, objectively, kind of at a bigger level, broken down to some of those smaller points, I think it makes it a bit easier to goal set, but also to stay committed to those goals, right?
I love that. And something you said there kind of resonated with me, Court. You said, what role does real estate play in your entire life scope, right?
Yeah.
And I like to think of it this way too with agents is like, how are we using this industry? How are we using real estate to help fuel our life, right? We don't want to be handcuffed to this industry. We're all a part of it because we have some sense of wanting to help people. And even furthermore, like, yes, we want to make money at it. I don't think any of us would do it for free all the time, right? So it's like, how can we use this business to help us live a bigger and better life, whatever that looks like? And that's going to look a lot different for maybe someone that's just a junior agent and they're 20 years old and they don't have a significant other, or a first time, real estate agent that maybe is coming from an education background and they don't like the teaching world. We've had lots of those come in and out of our ecosystem, right? So like that has a family and has all these other obligations. That's going to look very, very different. But I think that is a good point and a good starting point. And I guarantee you a lot of agents didn't do that back in 2020 and 2021 because they're just like, let's get our license right now. Let's start doing deals with all the people that I know are buying real estate. And it's a cakewalk. They're getting all these paychecks coming in and they don't have the fortitude to sit down and be like, hey, how am I going to build this looking at it from a business perspective as opposed to just paychecks as quick as possible?
Yeah, we saw that a lot with the team too, didn't we, Ryan? People that came into the industry during that time, an abundance of leads, an abundance of opportunities coming from the team, and those guys crushed a bunch of business, went off on their own, and some of those people aren't in business anymore, right? Like it just seemed too easy. Like they didn't have the systems that we provided them. They didn't stay consistent with the things that we were holding them accountable to. And unfortunately, some of those folks left the team and now aren't in business. And that didn't have to be that way. But I think one of the most important things that I want our viewers today to take away is that consistency is always going to win. And I always thought about it this way, and I would encourage everyone to think about it this way. See, my last career, I was at the University of Lethbridge. I worked there for many years. I showed up every day. I had to be there. I think it was 8:30, let's say, probably 9, but I went at 8:30, and I had to stay until 4:30. I was probably there till 5 every day. Okay. I got an hour for lunch. I think I had like an hour and breaks every day. So I split that up kind of any way that I wanted. But Ryan, if you were to survey all of the realtors that you've ever done a transaction with, which by now is in the hundreds, okay, how many of those realtors, as a percentage, do you think consistently work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and take like back in those days, I think it was 5 weeks of holidays a year, which is quite a bit. So how many of those realtors, Ryan, do you think work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and take 5 weeks of holidays a year consistently?
1%.
Right? And so, Ryan, then would you agree that if more realtors simply treated it like a job with a boss, worked 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and took 5 weeks off a year, that they could have the life of their dreams?
Correct.
And
Undoubtedly.
it's that simple. Like, wouldn't matter what you did, right?
Literally, I have it written down here. Number one mistake that agents make in their first 3 years is that they don't treat it like a real job. And
Hmm.
now, what me and Courtney are saying here, we don't have to be handcuffed to our desk, right?
Yeah.
There is some flexibility that we can all enjoy through this industry. But especially if you got your license when times were good, or if you're getting your license right now and you're not seeing the results, I would just ask yourself, like, zoom out, third person view, watching yourself conduct your day, would you hire you? And usually the answer is no. Like if you actually laid out your last 6 to 8 months of activity, wrote everything down, you gave it to a third party and said, hey, do you think what I did in the last 8 months should make me $200,000?
Hmm.
The answer is probably going to be no. And
Yeah.
that's where we have to have the awareness to look ourselves in the mirror, especially if we're not where we want to be, and be like, hey, I'm not where I want to be, but the beautiful part about it is that we have the control to change it. And unlike a corporate job like I was in before, I could change things and see a dramatic impact in my life, in my financial status, in my, in the things that I love to do, in my hobbies, and the amount of time that I can take off now. It was
Mm.
like literally within a 5 month span, things started to change. So I think that's a really cool thing about the real estate industry. You don't have to wait for a retirement package 25 years down the road. It could
No.
literally happen in 3 to 6 months.
And the question that I was consistently asking myself again, that I encourage all new agents to ask themselves, Ryan, is listen, is this a time where my boss would authorize my vacation? Okay. So like if I'm working a real busy job where like June and July and August are the most insane. Let's say June and July, okay, are the most insane. Most bosses are going to say, no, you can't take your holidays then. You got to take them some other time, right? So then why would I start taking all these long weekends off in the middle of summer just because I can? Not in those first 3 years. I'm not saying never, friend. I'm saying don't do it in the first 3 years. Why? Because you haven't earned the right to have that flexibility yet. See, the biggest mistake that people make, right, is they come into the business and they're like, great, you know what? I can do my grocery shopping in the middle of the day. And I'm like, you think that your boss is going to let you do that? You can't just go grocery shopping in the middle of the day. Are you insane? You would have to ask permission to take a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, right? You would have to ask permission to do anything like that. And listen, I had a job where I was a senior executive making 100,000 bucks a year. Like I had a boss that was like, you know, two or three IC in the entire organization. Like I still had to seek permission for these things. So why would I, in good conscience, as a new real estate agent, step into this industry with a brand new minted license and say, awesome. Do you know what? Today, I just don't feel like doing I'm going to sleep in today and I'll get to it about noon. I'm like, you're going to be fired in 2 weeks, like literally out of a job. If you had a boss and in real estate, yeah, you'll just be out of it a little bit longer because you'll burn through all your savings. You'll be frustrated. Your partner's going to be irritated. You're going to make up all kinds of excuses as to why it hasn't worked for you. And the real truth is that you did not do the work. So stop with the bullshit excuses and just show up. That's all you got to do. There's a gazillion ways to make money in real estate. Go to YouTube. We can teach you thousands ourselves. Thousands might be a stretch, hundreds, let's say, right? And just put those into play, whatever one works for you. But just do it 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, whatever, 47 weeks a year, and you'll win.
Pretty much, yeah. And it can be that simple, right? And so I want to dive into just kind of one of the situations that you mentioned there about being busy, right? Because I think there's a lot of ways agents can quote be busy or feel
Mm.
busy. And I think depending on how you conduct your day and the activities that you choose to do are going to have a way greater impact to your deals and your income as opposed to doing it another way. Prime example, I've never been to a realtor inspection. I've don't go to any board things. I don't do any of that stuff. Now, I know a lot of agents that will fill their days with that, right? And they'll come home and they'll feel like they did work today because they were being a realtor. But I want you to think about what does that actually mean? What does being a realtor, being in this real estate industry, trying to make money, what does that actually mean? I can't get closer to a client going to a realtor inspection. Okay. I can't get closer to a client if I go for coffee with a bunch of other agents. I can't get any closer to a client if I attend a weekly broker meeting. I'm not saying don't do that, but I ain't going every week. Okay. There's a lot of things that are just baked into this industry that don't get you closer to that next relationship. And I would say if 80% of your day is not geared towards the activities getting closer to another personal relationship with a potential client, I don't care if that client is buying now or 5 years from now, then you will not get the success within that 3 year span. I can have a busy schedule as an agent and move the needle zero throughout a day, or I can have a busy schedule where I'm significantly going to impact the opportunity to help people buy and sell real estate in the future. So, what are
Mhm.
some of those things, Court, or maybe break down what you would ideally like to see a morning look like for a junior agent, or maybe an agent in their third year right now? They kind of want a little reset button.
Dead simple. Okay, break your day down into three parts, my friends. And here's what it should look like: morning, afternoon, evening. Okay. Your evening is going to be reserved for a little bit later, you know, when you've got the time, when you need the time, and so forth. Okay. But all you need at the beginning is morning and afternoon. That's your 9 to 5. Okay. Now, if you really want to be a keener, I would encourage you to really start at 8. The reason why is that you just have a greater likelihood statistically of getting a hold of prospects 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, you might say, Court, I don't want to bother people. And I'd say, get over it. Read the book, Fanatical Prospecting, and get over it. That's a limiting belief. Don't tell me, don't tell yourself, don't tell somebody else. It's bullshit. Start at 8, make money, okay? And get that book. It's not mine. Second thing, those two day parts, the primary day parts, morning and afternoon, you have to think about it this way, friend. You have to think about it like I'm a disciplined son of a gun. I am my own boss. I don't have somebody whipping me. I have to own my schedule because nobody else will for me. Mornings are for outbound prospecting and relationship building only. Afternoons are for cleanup, for follow-up, for showings, for anything else that comes as a result of what? Generating new business. Okay. Those are two equal day parts, 4 hours and 4 hours. There's your 8 hour day. Here's what's going to happen though when you stick to that. You're going to need to work into the evenings because of showings and all those types of things. And hey, great. And listen, I'm not suggesting for a moment that you ought to start working a 12-hour day right away. Hey, listen, take that 2 hours in the afternoon, push it to the evening, and then go to the gym in the afternoon. Or go do your grocery shopping in the afternoon if you were going to do it in the evening, but only when you've got that 2 hours already scheduled in the evening. And so, one of the ways that I've done that that's worked really, really well for me, Ryan, is I would just, use Google Calendar, first of all. Like, you wouldn't believe the number of agents that don't use a calendar. Ryan, as a percentage of the hundreds of agents that you've done business with over the years, what percentage of those people do you think run their entire life by a calendar like Google Calendar?
Again, probably 1%.
It's insane. Like it blows my mind. So you want like two pro tips? Run a tight calendar. Treat it like a job. Like we can't make this easier for you. Okay.
I always have, sorry to interrupt, Court.
Yeah, yeah, go.
I have this theory of like, if an agent were to show me their calendar, I could guess within 10% how much money they make.
100%.
So
100%. And so what I started doing early on, Ryan, I know you do the same thing, is I would block my morning, okay? And I would just say, like, in there, I would have like that 4 hour chunk, like outbound prospecting, relationship building, right? And then the afternoon, showing deal follow-up, like just so I could see it visually each and every day and recognize, oh, that's what I do with my day. Because listen, I forget and I would fall into bad habits too. Okay. So I would try like heck to get somebody to book showings with me in the afternoon. But if I couldn't, I would put it into the evening. And for every hour that I added into the evening, I would subtract an hour from that afternoon so that I wasn't like overwhelmed. Now, in time, within that second year, yeah, I was working those 12-hour days, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And by the time I was into my third year, I was doing 14-hour days, right? Really trying to get scaled back on that to try to make more money, but I was out of hours to add essentially, right?
mhm,
And so when you really like look at your calendar each day, right? You wake up, you look at it, what's ahead of me today? Okay, what do I have to do to prepare for my day today? Look, oh gosh, I'm reminded this morning is for outbound prospecting. The afternoon is for lead follow-up, deal follow-up, closing deals, showings, evenings, same thing if I need to. Hey, listen, it's really, really hard not to be able to succeed when you're constantly reminded of what your day structure needs to look like to win. But if you're not using a calendar, hey, every day could be Groundhog Day. Every day could be a vacation day. Every day could just be a day where I don't feel like doing the work.
mhm.
And that'll happen more often than you believe.
Yep, absolutely. And you fall into those bad habits. Now, with that morning set, I want this to be super clear. When Courtney says outbound prospecting, that is outwardly reaching out for 3, 4 hours straight to try to get on the phone with other human beings. So, what does that mean, Courtney, that they're not doing? What is that agent not doing in that morning window?
Dude, I love that question so much. It means that you're not on Instagram. It means that you're not on Facebook. Okay. Like you're not on social media, friends. Listen, I love social media as much as the next person. Yes, it is an important part of brand building, but that is not outbound prospecting. Outbound prospecting is this: it's going through your phone and it's calling people that you already know, like, and trust. It's sending personalized messages to people that you haven't spoken to for a little while, trying to get them on a phone call. If you have to use social media, you're sending personalized DMs to friends, connecting using family, occupation, recreation, dreams, Ford, to try to get them on a phone call with people. It's sending customized video email messages to people, doing the same thing, trying to get people on the phone. See, here's the thing that I think a lot of people misconstrue about what prospecting looks like, Ryan. They don't understand that there's tiers or categories or like levels of quality to these things. And so, correct me if you think that I've got this wrong, Ryan, but here's my order of operations, or I would say just like the most important or the most effective to the least important to the least effective, just using, 4, 5, or six categories. Voice to voice. So a phone call. Now,
Oh,
hands
you mean the most awkward or the most
I
kind
mean, the thing that
of
we all hate the most. And here's the thing, like, I bet you that all of the people that are here right now, Ryan, are looking at me like a dude that loves the phone. Ryan, what do you know about me and the phone?
You don't like it. No one likes it.
No, I don't like it. I'll go so far as to say that I hate making phone calls. Okay. Like my family lives across Canada. I speak to them like once a month. Like I don't even like talking to my family. And I love my family. Like we're close. My dad's literally at my house right now. Okay. Don't love the phone, but here's the thing, friend. I want to win at real estate. I'll do anything to win. Okay. Voice to voice works. Okay. Second to that, my belief, going to be text message. Third to that, going to be an email. After that would be a DM on Facebook. After that, probably a DM on Instagram. After that, I really don't care too much. How do you feel, Ryan? You disagree? Anything in there you'll get change?
I, I think the fact that there's a lot of, I would say, noise around moving away or having some fancy drip campaigns for email and text messages, to me, that's justifying not doing voice to voice. And voice to voice is the most important type of prospecting that you can do. But agents will just look for a nice, bright, shiny object just to justify, oh, I don't need to go there today. I don't need to feel uncomfortable today because I just spent $1,000 on a text message stack from someone ABC influencer that says that they can close more deals.
Yeah.
The
Guys,
easiest way to
by
close
the
a
way,
deal.
guys, we'll give you ours. Like, we're not going
Yeah.
to charge you for it. We'll give you because we would rather you not use them anyway.
Yeah. It like and sometimes when team leaders come to us, what we tell them kind of shocks them because they're looking for that magic bullet. They're looking for that secret key to unlock their dreams and freedoms when really it's picking up a phone, even when it feels like it weighs 900 pounds, putting it to your ear and talking to other human beings. Because guys, we're in a human relationship business. And when we can come from a standpoint of like, hey, I'm going to call and see how to help this person out eventually,
Yeah.
that's when your business starts to change. And that's when my life started to change. It's like, hey, whatever I feel the most awkward doing or the most resistance, which is always voice to voice, it's always going on to our CRM, loading up 50 names and just pressing go and sitting there in that discomfort. That's when things started to align. And that's where you all of a sudden start to get traction because you get comfortable sitting in that discomfort and realizing that, hey, this actually works, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to going from widget to widget to widget, from tech stack to email campaigns to all these things, just going to the next one. And one of the things that I had on here, Court, in my notes here, one of the biggest mistakes is agents thinking the grass is greener elsewhere, whether
Yeah.
that's from brokerage to brokerage, which we see a lot of agents starting to go from brokerage to brokerage in their third year. There's a reason for that.
Right.
Or they think of a new lead gen system is the way to go. They see some fancy AI thing and they stop doing the voice to voice that led them to the place they're at today, when really that's just what they need to keep doing. Guys, go deep on these things, not wide. And Court, we've wasted more money than anyone on getting those fancy flashy things, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no, keep doing what you know works. And back to kind of tie this all up, that morning block, guys, that is not for you to take phone calls from your parents. It's
Nope.
not for you to take a phone call or text message from your broker asking about a deal that closes in 3 months.
Nope.
That is not to answer a phone call from a property inspector. That is specifically for outbound prospecting. Okay,
Yeah.
back to my earlier point about it's more about what you do in a day. Guys, you can soak up in a whole day. You can go home at the end of the day and feel exhausted, but did you really actually move the needle or not? And
Yeah.
when agents look inward, usually the answer is no.
Yeah. There's this concept or this philosophy, Ryan, as you well know, about blue ocean versus red ocean. And so I'll share this for those that are curious. Blue ocean is where there's very little competition. Okay, just envision yourself swimming through the ocean. There's, ample opportunity to find food, resources, whatever it is that you need. Red ocean is bloodied water. There's sharks everywhere. There's a bit of food, but like you're probably going to get your head bitten off at some point. Okay. Listen, I want to run my businesses in blue ocean. Okay. Blue ocean is just so much easier. The currents are less, less insane. There's just less competition. And oddly enough, do you know what red ocean is? And Ryan, we've just talked about this, but red ocean is in the shiny object. It's the widget. It's the thing for sale. It's that thing that's $1,000 a month. It's the thing that's trying to make it easy. Like that's red ocean because you're being pitched it. Everybody else is also buying it. It's super competitive, and chances are it doesn't really work anyway because that ocean is so red and those waters are so bloody. You know where the blue ocean is? It's in the stuff that nobody else is doing. To this day, if you move me to any market in North America, you know what I'm doing? I'm calling people and I'm door knocking houses. That's what I'm doing. Why? Blue ocean. Ain't nobody doing it. Cold calling, I'm a killer at it. Why? Because I've practiced. Why? Because it's blue ocean. Everybody hates doing it. So do I, but it pays my bills. And if I got to make a living in a new city, that's exactly what I'm going to start doing. Topping that up with some door knocking, layering that with some open houses. I've said that 1,000 times. I'll do it 1,000 times if I got to start 1,000 times because it's what works.
Mhm.
Ocean, man. Just do the things that nobody else is doing.
And if you're an agent wondering how to get that many numbers for that time block in the morning and you don't have a CRM with leads, you get telelisting. It's cheap. Some brokerages offer it for free already. I know ours does. And you just start dialing. And then, like Courtney said, you layer it on top with door knocking. We have webinar series on our YouTube channel all about that stuff. But like that mitigates that whole objection. So there's always an ample amount of phone numbers to call, guys. That cannot be an excuse at all.
No, not at all. And if you want to know how to find like a good area to call, just look for an area that has high turnover. Like it's not rocket science. We don't have to complicate this stuff, but you do have to commit to the hours. You do have to do the work. But those that do will be the one percenters because all you need is to treat it like a job and use your calendar and abide by it. Ryan, I've been thinking this entire time, one of the tools that we have is that amazing time audit tool. We put so much time into creating that. I'd like those that are here today just to hit a number one in the chat. If you'd like us to send you a copy of our time audit tool, so it'll help you understand how you're spending your time most effectively, go ahead and hit a number one in your chat. If you would care to get a copy of that after the fact, the chat's blowing up. Okay, cool. I got it. So we're going to do that after the fact, everyone. We're going to go ahead. We'll just send that out to you. If you're here today, thanks for that. We're going to send it out after the fact. Make use of it, share it if you want. Doesn't matter. Listen, at the end of the day, we're here to be of service to you, the real estate community. We know a lot of this stuff is a lot of times behind a paywall or I don't know, somebody trying to sell you something else. Here's the thing. Yeah, we'd love to work with you. We could take your money just like anybody else. But the idea of these webinars that we run consistently is just to give value away. So that's one of the things we want to give you today.
Love that. And that time audit tool, it's going to basically remove the ego away if you do it properly, right? To where at the end of doing it, you're going to look back at it and it's going to be very clear what things you're actually doing that make a direct impact into your income, into your deals, into your life, and all the stuff you'll be shocked that you can probably let go of. Because and this is a philosophy that I have not only in real estate, but in my life too. It's not so much what I'm doing, it's what I'm not doing. It's what I'm not spending my time at doing to where I can now get all my hours back throughout the week and be able to then allocate that however I want. Now, in your first 3 years of business, that time is going to be allocated back into your business. I know for my first 2.5 years, I had a 9 to 5 job. I was working a corporate job every single day, Monday through Friday. So I had to cram real estate in the evenings and weekends. And it was not that fun to do it that way. And I don't recommend it. But you want to talk about being efficient. You want to talk about having your calendar detailed. It was an absolute necessity for me. And for those that may not be where they want, guys, you have to start doing these things to get the results. You can't be like, oh, once I get busy, I'll do all that stuff. It's
Mm,
not how it works at all. You have to be proactive about building your business and what I call proactive thought. Like, hey, what do I want my life to look like a year from now? What are
mm.
the things, if I did attain that goal a year from now, what would be the things that my future self was grateful that I did through the 12-month duration leading up to that point?
Yep, that's wise.
So,
Hmm.
what other? We still got about 10 minutes here, Court. What other big mistakes? Are there anything coming to mind where
Yeah.
an agent may not be doing or doing too much of or doing the wrong thing in their first few years?
Yeah, I think what an agent needs to do at the very beginning, Ryan, like that 12-month period, we've really outlined that. Like your day's broken out into two parts. It's heavy on prospecting, afternoon spent following up. And I'm just going to reiterate it, friends. Listen, outbound only. Because so here's what this means to me, okay? If I call somebody, let's say between the time of 8 and noon, okay, and they call me back during that time of 8 to noon, I do not pick up. Why? Because that already tells me that they want to engage with me. And when I
Their
call them,
hands up.
their hand's already up. I don't have to take them right now. I want to go find the next one and the next one and the next one. If I burn my morning talking to that somebody, now I've got less things to do in the afternoon now, right? And then I'm going to be more inclined to be tired and, go shopping or do whatever I do in the day. Only outbound. I'm not taking any phone calls. Never. I don't care if it's my broker. I don't care who it is. Doesn't matter. Another realtor, somebody wants a showing. Too bad. Gonna wait until 12:01. I'll get back to you then. Okay. So that's thing one. Once you've gone through a year like that, I promise you this, you're going to be busy. Now, sometime during that time, and you'll use our time audit tool to make this determination as to when you might switch this up. But you're going to look at more like a 3-3-3 schedule, like 3 hours outbound prospecting, because you'll be able to do just a little bit less of that. You're going to be getting better at it for one. Your conversations are going to be higher quality. Your conversion is going to be way up. You're going to have more skills to bring to the marketplace. You will have earned more referral business. So you can just get back a little bit of time from your outbound prospecting. Afternoon, same thing. It'll be more efficient. You'll have better understanding of which things are urgent, what deserves your time. You can spend 3 hours now doing that. So you're 2 hours ahead. I'd like you to spend 3 hours. This is 3-3-3. I'd like you to spend that next 3 hours. We're talking 9-hour days now, Monday to Friday, 3 hours building business. Okay. And here's what that means to me. That means working on your email campaign. That means working on your events. That means working on your social channel, working on your website, working on those branding things that are going to create longer, more significant ongoing opportunities in your business. First year, it's a grind. Listen, there's no getting around the fact that it's a grind. It's easier if you're on a team, unquestionably, lots of leads, support, coaching, accountability, all those things. But if you do it on your own, yeah, 4 hours a day, man, for that first year. Then move to
That's
that
that's
three.
a huge thing, Court, though, because a lot of times when agents get their license, they want to do all those things, build a brand, do their website, right? Get a social media account. And what we're saying, guys, until you have at least 50 deals done, don't worry about that.
You
Because
barely need a
those
business card.
yeah, like do not worry about that stuff because yeah, it might be fun to do that stuff. It is fun to build a brand. It is fun to do all those things. It's fun to work with a content creator, right? And do all that fun realtoring stuff. But guys, like you need to get the business going first before you can do that kind of thing. And again, guys, there's a lot of folks that will tell you differently. And what me and Courtney are saying, like you got to put your head down and follow a calendar to where you are generating income as close to that prospecting activity as possible. So then you can have the ability and essentially what I would think of it as like you are now able to do that funner stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And you'll know more about what is good and what isn't. See, the other thing that we haven't really talked about here, but it dovetails with what Ryan's talking about, is there's a lot of predatory behavior on that first year agent where it's like, hey, we're the market. We know what that first year agent is scared of, and here's something that they'll buy from us, right? Like Brian, I love the example. My first year, okay, now this is dating me a little bit, but my first year, I paid $3,600 for like a 4x4 ad on a what do you call them, phone book cover. Like that was a thing of the past then. That's going back 16 years. Hardly anybody even had a phone book then. But somebody called me, they prospected me, they got me at the right time. I was scared. I wrote my check for 3,600 bucks, $0 ROI. That 3,600 bucks could have been spent, 100 better ways. So be cautious of that person prospecting you, be it on social media, on Google, or by phone as that first year agent, because they've got something to sell. And we've told you what works. Like it's not by accident we've sold something like 5,000 homes. It's not by accident we've probably burned through $1 million on these things that don't work. We're telling you, don't reinvent the wheel. Go to work, do the harder things that are proven to yield results. And then as you generate revenue, as you're becoming more and more successful, as you're finding your voice, as you're learning your skills, as you're understanding the landscape of the real estate market, finding out what's going to be appropriate for you, then yes, go ahead and start to make some very modest investments in things that are going to be brand building, business building, lead generation. Absolutely. That's part of business growth through years 2 and 3. But skip that stuff in your first year, my friend. Just get to work, hustle, grind, make those phone calls, have those conversations, butcher some of them, lose some deals. That's all part of it. But those mistakes are the fabric of your growth. And if you don't give yourself the opportunity to do that, your second and third year, you're going to be working on broken legs. You need that foundation.
Yeah, you need the at bats.
Hmm.
And I think the important part about when you are ready to, build out a little bit of brand marketing, whatever you want to call that, there's a lot of fancy words for it. But what I would do is everything that I'm creating in that fun stage in that 3 hours, I always want to keep my eye on how does this support my past clients, right?
Hmm.
And how does this support my sphere? How does this support what I want my social to be, basically my messaging around that? And my last mistake that I think agents make in their first 3 years is they don't put enough proactive thought into where the revenue is going to be coming from 2 to 3 years down the road. I call them revenue streams. If we have
Hmm.
some revenue silos, so the majority of business that you're going to get, the majority of deals in your first year, 18 months, is going to be from that hard work, from that outbound prospecting, right? Well, you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. So we have to proactively think like, hey, where else could deals come from? Well, there's a networking silo, there's a sphere silo, right? There's a social media silo, there's past client silo is a big one. There's all these different silos that you can build out, at least have your eye on, like, hey, how are you proactively going to be working towards building these silos out so that you're not just determined to get all your business from one silo. I think that's very irresponsible to have your revenue come from one single line. You would never see a massive business like the corporation I worked for. He didn't just own one business, right? He owned 50 businesses, right? And
Yeah.
guess what? His cash flow month after month was always about the same because he had different businesses doing different amounts of revenue every single month. So everything offset. And I want to think of my real estate business in a similar fashion. Yep, outbound prospecting is a big one. That silo is going to be big in that first few years, but when you start to scale, you can then basically buy back your time and have all these other silos at work. I hope that makes sense. That's a very quick explanation of it, but I
Mm.
think a mistake is made when agents don't think about their future business and just slowly, like Courtney said, a couple hours a week working on those so that you are able to leverage out of the dials, right?
Yeah. One final thing I want to share, Ryan, before we close it out is a mistake that I made. And when I came to the industry, and maybe some of our viewers today feel the same way, I really just didn't feel like I knew anything. And I felt like I had to like sell myself to my audience, right? And the thing that I want everyone here to understand is that you're good enough the way that you are today, okay? Nobody expects you to be the ultimate resource to real estate in your first year. That's not to say that you shouldn't be working hard to hone and learn and grow. Absolutely. But what I want you to focus on is how can you be of service to your clients? And if you're storytelling, tell stories about how you're being of service to your clients. Don't brag about the house that you sold. Don't brag about all the clients that you got. Don't brag about all the deals that you did. Brag about the things that you're doing for other people. Well, don't brag about it, but tell stories about those things that you're doing to be of service to others. Elevate the client, elevate the consumer. Everyone's going to see that it's you doing the work. But when you start to portray yourself as a service provider, somebody who cares deeply for the outcomes that you're creating, the journeys of self-discovery that you're taking people on, it becomes a much different experience for those around you. It's much more attractive, much more magnetic when people don't feel sold. A lot of that's in that book that I was talking about before, Fanatical Prospect. So check that out too.
Mhm. Love that. Any closing thoughts, Court? I think that's a great kind of message to end on, and one that I certainly made a mistake in my first 2 years. Like when I see Facebook stories pop up from 5 years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I posted that. Or like just makes me want to have kind of that vomit realtor breath, right? So it's just different.
I don't have any closing remarks, Ryan, but I would say this for those of you that are concerned about what you might feel like, look like, or sound like, go back to YouTube and just Google my name and see how much garbage I posted and how worthless it was. Like it's terrible. Okay. But they're all at bats. It's all practice. And I was doing business at that time, okay, but not as much as I could have been had I just been approaching it differently with this philosophy that we've just shared with you, with the
Mhm.
systems that we've just shared with you too. So go check that out. You'll feel really good about yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And if this is the first time for you on this webinar, we record all the series. They're on our YouTube channel, Real Estate Growth Solutions. They're all there. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the content. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, check out the Facebook group as well, Real Estate Growth Solutions, or sorry, Real Estate Growth Community on Facebook. And we'd love to share some more tips with you there too. Take good care.
See you guys.